Hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm Jacqueline Whitmore, and welcome to my Facebook Live. And today's guest is someone who you're absolutely going to adore. She and I have known each other, I want to say, probably 12 years or more. And I have stayed in touch with her. She's a wealth of information, and I know you're going to find what she has to say today very useful. And her name is Geralin Thomas, Geralin with a G. And she is a decluttering expert. She's an author and instructor for the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And in 2002, she founded her own company called Metropolitan Organizing. And Geralin's the author of two books, one being From Hoarding to Hope, Understanding People Who Hoard and How to Help. And the second one is Decluttering Your Home, Tips, Techniques, and Trade Secrets, which has been translated into 8 languages. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, decluttering your home and decluttering your life. So in just a second, I will bring on Geralin, and she's going to say hi to us. And here she is. Good morning.
Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, everybody. Good morning to everyone.
Geralin, thank you so much for joining me. It's so good to see you, and your home looks immaculate.
Not always, but thank you. I'm far from perfect. I have my flaws and moments just like everyone else, but thank you.
Well, I'm interested in knowing how you got started in this business because, I teach a lot of other etiquette consultants, and I tell them I have a friend who specializes in organizational strategies and how to organize homes and people's lives, and they find that so fascinating. So when you are sitting on an airplane and someone says, "What do you do?" What do you tell them?
I sometimes say that I'm a consultant. I think sometimes people feel intimidated talking a professional organizer, like they don't want to share, or sometimes it goes the exact opposite way. They can't wait to reveal all their problems and hopefully get some solutions on the flight. But I used to be in the travel industry, interestingly enough. And that's kind of what led me into this industry. I was a travel agent in Durham, North Carolina, and I would do what they used to call FAM trips, as well as continuing education trips for the UNC Dental School and other professionals. And I noticed while traveling around the world with large groups of people who were successful professionals, when they left town and got out of their home turf, they sometimes couldn't function very well. So I noticed that I could keep a lot of plates spinning in the air and keep, this person squared away and that person squared away. So to me, it was just a very gradual process to go into this industry.
And you are you're an instructor for the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And that's quite an organization. And for those people who have never heard of it, they have a website. And I know you've done webinars for them, so they can go on your website or NAPO's website and hear some of your webinars, correct?
Right. For anybody who's listening and they think they want to find an organizer, they can go to napo.net. That's NAPO.net. Put in their zip code and tell a little bit about what they want or help organizing. So sometimes it's paperwork or a garage sale or estate planning, and they can find somebody in their local area. Or they can just come to Metropolitan Organizing and I'll help them find somebody.
Okay. And you are located in North Carolina.
Correct. In the middle of the state, just outside of Raleigh. I live in Cary, North Carolina.
And do you do virtual decluttering consultations?
Oh. Yes. And funny you should ask. Now more than ever before, it has become such a hot topic among, I think there's about 3,500 members of NAPO, and it is the talk. Everybody seems to be getting into this more and more now.
I think people would be very intimidated to have you look into their homes. And especially virtually, taking a computer or a smartphone around and saying, okay, Geralin, here's my closet. Tell me what I need to do. Ah!
Some people are, but like I say, I try to, I have a YouTube station and people can see that I'm far from perfect. I like to think I'm pretty approachable. We all have things that we don't understand and that we're not good at. It's a skill set. Some people are born organized. I think I was one of those people. And I grew up in a very organized home. My parents are both organized. My brother's an engineer. My sister is in a housekeeping profession. So we just seem to be genetically wired for that. Other people learn to be organized, and other people, that many of my clients have no desire to learn the techniques. They just want somebody to come in and do it for them and then explain, give them kind of a roadmap how to keep it that way.
Okay, so you've been on the show Hoarders.
Yes.
And for those of us, or for those viewers who have never heard of the show Hoarders, can you tell them in a nutshell what that show is about and what you did on the show?
Yes, the show is still airing. I'm no longer filming the show, but the show took people who either they or their family members filled out an application for them to get help. Many times it felt like a hopeless case. Other times it felt like there was a pending deadline. So Department of Social Services was going to come and take away children. Somebody was coming home sick from a hospital and they had to have the house cleaned up. So there's a landlord wanted to evict somebody. So there's all kinds of emergency situations. But basically we went in there, the organizers, as well as a therapist, and we did the best we could in a very short amount of time to get those houses where it would be good enough for the inspectors to come through and for them to keep their children or keep their loved ones at home, or, you know, not have to move out in such a, hostile environment, because it really is very dangerous for a lot of people to live like that, especially when there's children or elderly people involved.
Well, the $1,000,000 question that I want to know, and I think our viewers would like to know, is why do people hold on to stuff?
Oh, well, how long do we have? Okay, so somebody with a hoarding disorder, and that is the way we in the industry would phrase that. A person has a hoarding disorder. As an organizer, we don't diagnose people. We're not qualified. We're not, licensed to do so. You need a licensed medical professional to do that. But I also know, after years of doing the show, that lots of people use that term kind of casually, right? They refer to themselves as being a hoarder, and it's just become kind of a slang term for they're either a pack rat or they're a collector, or they just have too much stuff going on. So I understand that, people use that word casually, but the real, if you are dealing with somebody with a hoarding disorder, it's a mental illness.
Okay.
Now, back to your question, why do some people have so much stuff? I think there's several different personality types, but the 5 categories that tend to work with me the most often are people who are either easily distracted. It could be a diagnosis of ADHD or something like that, or maybe it's just ADD. There's another group of people, these are typically younger people, who are procrastinators, and we can relate to this. If anybody who went to college, you think you have all semester to write a 10-page paper, and then 2 nights before you're doing the research and digging around frantically. So those are people that tend to be procrastinators, and maybe you put off your taxes to the last minute, and then there's a mad scramble to run around the house and find all the paperwork. So distracted, procrastinator. There are people who just can't resist a bargain. So they're bargain shoppers, and they over accumulate things. They bring in more than they have room for. There are a lot of people that work with me and other organizers they have perfectionistic tendencies. And this seems kind of like it wouldn't fit together, especially when people have a hoarding disorder. But many of the people that I've worked with that have been diagnosed by a licensed medical professional with hoarding disorder are often perfectionists. Wow. And they don't want to even attempt to do the first thing on a project until they know it can be absolutely perfect. So trying to convince people like that to go for good enough and not perfection, it's really challenging. But the number one reason people hang on to stuff, in my experience, is because they are what I call sentimental savers.
Sentimental savers.
Yes, they associate feelings and memories with things. And then in their mind, if they let go of that, for some reason, they think that it will let go of the memory. So I'll give you a couple quick examples. Sometimes parents hang on to children's artwork and schoolwork. Well, we can't do that, right? Especially if you have 4 kids running around the house. But everything isn't precious if you collect everything. Only 1 or 2 things are precious and worth keeping. Or maybe somebody hangs on to her wedding dress and maybe the wedding went south and she can't bear to get rid of it because it was such a great day. Or photos, or I mean, there's so many things we hang on to for sentimental reasons.
Well,
we don't even like them.
And we don't even like them. Wow.
Yeah, I have a woman that hung on to lots and lots of cut glass that her mother passed on to her. She didn't like cut glass. It wasn't her lifestyle, but she just felt really guilty because her mom gave her that. And we've all been given a gift by somebody who we feel bad letting it go, right? Whether probably shouldn't say this on an etiquette expert show, but maybe you're regifting it, or you just discard it or donate it.
Dump it or donate it.
You got it.
So we're going to talk about a couple of different categories, and one being the sentimental. Let's stay on that topic for just a moment. How does one part with those sentimental pieces without feeling guilty? What do you do when you walk into somebody's house and you see all this stuff, like the person who collector, the person who saves all of their children's awards and ribbons, and the kids are long gone?
Right. And one of the interesting things, especially now we're finding, is that we're living longer and longer, right? So, and people are tending to downsize as we get older. And these people will call their adult children or their grandchildren and say, hey, I have, your mom and dad's stuff when they were 7, 8, 9, 10. And the adult children don't want it. They're like, just throw it away. I don't need another macaroni necklace, right? I have my kids making their own necklaces and things like that. Or I like to use different techniques depending on what I think will be effective with the person. And again, the goal is always do no harm when you're organizing. Professional organizers are not out to clear out a whole house. That's not our goal. Our goal is to help you bring your vision to life. So if you need 4 empty shelves in a closet, that's pretty much what we're going to focus on. Now, we might bring up some other things like, hey, I noticed in your laundry room, there's like not a great process or a flow. But back to the sentimental stuff, I try to point out to people, let's call your adult children and see if they want this. Are you saving it because you think they would want it? Mm-hmm. Are you saving it because it brings back such great memories of when your son, daughter, whomever was in kindergarten? And sometimes the artwork and the little practice writing drills, they're not even really done by the child. The teacher has helped so much that it's not even really part of that child. So again, it's kind of a lengthy process, but we spread things out and pick your 3 or 4 favorite things. Everything can't be a favorite.
Okay, let's address the situation where someone dies in the family, someone passes away. It might be a husband, it might be a child, it might be a parent. How do you work with those people who are holding on to those keepsakes that were owned by someone else?
It is a very delicate situation, and I do recommend that people, before they reach out to an organizer, that they let enough time pass where they can do this with a clear head. And by the way, it's not just somebody who dies, it could also be people go through a grieving process with divorce.
Mm.
There's a part of everybody, I think most people want to hang on to things that make them feel good. And I'm thinking of a client right now who her mother passed, and then she had to go empty out the mother's house. She was the only child in this geographic location, so that job fell on her shoulders. And it was so overwhelming for her to go through her mother's things in her mother's environment that she boxed everything up and brought it to her garage in a storage unit. And it took years for her to process that. So of course we don't want that, because that adds up and it's a cost. And then of course, not only is she paying for the storage unit, she's paying a team of organizers to help her sort through her things. But when she was ready, we just pointed out, let's keep something that really truly reminds you of your mother. And in her case, one of the things that she really cherished was a specific dress that had great memories, a bottle or two of perfume. And we decided a dress isn't going to be really helpful to you. So what about if we took that dress, took it to a shop here in Cary, and they made little sachets, and then she could tuck them in her drawers and closet. And she loved seeing that. She loved opening her linen closet and seeing a little square of her mother's dress, and it smelled great. And that was one way one solution.
Well, I'm going to give you a real life example from my life. So one of my favorite aunts died maybe 3 years ago, and she left me with all of her Lenox china. Mm-hmm. And I live in a very small 1,000 square foot cottage. So I only have a certain amount of room in my kitchen. So these dishes for 3 years have been sitting in these plastic bins in my storage unit outside.
Right.
And I am waiting for the day I get a bigger house.
Okay.
You ever hear those situations? I love those dishes because they remind me of my aunt, and I love dishes. However, I have no room in my house for them right now. So they're sitting, collecting dust, taking up space in my storage unit. And I don't know if you deal with these situations. I'm sure you do.
Of course, sure. So I would ask you, what is stopping you from trading your current dishes to those dishes? Is there a reason that you wouldn't just donate your current set of dishes and pull her dishes in and use those every day?
Well, I just bought some dishes at an estate sale about 3 years ago, and I'm using those every day. And those are actually very nice dishes. Those are my everyday dishes, and it's china. But anyway, it's not about me. But
so sometimes for things like that, we suggest, and this wouldn't be appropriate in your situation, but maybe in case somebody's listening and this is their situation. You could take it to somebody who does crafts, and if you needed a bird bath or an outdoor table, they break the plates. I mean, that sounds horrific, but it would be a way for you to enjoy the pattern and think of that person and not have to get rid of the dishes, right? So it all depends on what people's comfort level is and how far they want to push something. I had somebody make teacups. She used her grandmother's, had a teacup collection, and she took them to somebody who makes homemade candles, and all of her teacups and saucers became candles. It was really lovely. And she does use all her candles.
And I'm sure your clients argue with you all the time. You'll give them a solution and they'll say, but.
And there may not be, there's rarely one solution that fits everybody. So we have to have like a big toolbox and keep pulling out some of our, techniques and see if there's a good fit for that particular person and that particular situation. And if you told me that you were living in your dream home, that this is your forever home, I would probably try to encourage you to let those sentimental dishes go to a niece, a neighbor. And for myself, I have 2 sons. They don't want my stuff most likely. So I would say when I give something away, I take it to a donation center, and I just trust that my things will end up in somebody's home being used by somebody who really wants them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's go on to the second category, the junk drawer. everybody has a junk drawer in their house. Some people have several. Guilty.
Yes. Yes, they do.
So what do you do with the quintessential junk drawer?
Well, again, it's a depends on the level of how much junk is in the junk drawer, and if somebody wants to have a junk drawer. I myself have a junk drawer. I love my junk drawer, but my junk drawer isn't truly junky. I showed it to people and they're like, well, that's not really junk. But my junk drawer has batteries, some foreign coins from travel, just odds and ends that I find around the house. I once in a while find a Christmas ornament that got forgotten. I'm not going to truck back upstairs and open up the box, so I'll put it in the junk drawer. I remember it's there. Light bulbs. But I think if you can pull everything out of the junk drawer and categorize it and put it in individual little boxes, if that's appealing to you, that really helps sort things out. And the biggest thing about a junk drawer is having a junk drawer isn't especially helpful if you don't even know what's in there. So if you have a plastic piece to something or other that's missing and you don't remember that it's in your junk drawer, it's really not doing you any good.
Right. So it helps to take things out every now and again and look at what you have, take an inventory, and then dump it or donate it or keep it.
Right.
All right.
And, like, people have keys that they don't know what they go to. And I always tell people, just put them on a key ring and don't get rid of your keys, because, 5 years from now, you may suddenly think, oh, I do have a key for that somewhere. And as long as they're on one key ring, it makes it much easier.
Number 3 is our closet. Oh my goodness. This must be a nightmare when you walk into some people's homes and you just see their closet.
It's never a nightmare. It's my dream come true. I love big, bad, hairy closets. To me, it's really fun. It's one of the more rewarding parts of my job. So I typically tell people, let's start with things that fit. Then we go to things that flatter. And by flatter, I usually try to remind people your hair color is this, your eye color is this, your complexion is warm or cool, and you are what I would call a high contrast person or a low contrast person. And once they start, I use a little color wheel to show them this is flattering on warm skin, this is flattering on cool skin. So you could probably let go. I have a client with beautiful red hair, warm golden skin, gorgeous green eyes, and she's wearing a lot of black. And, I went through the whole thing. Brown is actually a better color for you. She's not willing to let go of all her black clothes, which is okay. That is her decision. But in the future, if she could buy brown clothes, if she's going clothes shopping, it makes it so much easier to shop. So what fits, what flatters, the fabric. I have so many people hang on to clothes that need a lot of attention. So silks or linens or something with perspiration stains or needs buttons, mending, ironing. If this isn't worth fixing or repairing or taking care of, that's a signal that you should probably not buy those clothes or hang on to them anymore. And then the final thing is lifestyle. And this is probably the number one lecture I give to people in my age group is don't acquire clothes for an aspirational lifestyle. So what I mean by that is I work with a lot of women who have closets full of beautiful clothes, but they live in yoga pants, short shirts, tanks, much more casual lifestyle. So I try to point out to them, pennies per wear, you'd be better investing in more casual clothes instead of this aspirational lifestyle type of clothing that you seem to be drawn to.
And what about the person who is holding on to those clothes just because they think they're going to lose weight?
Well, if somebody's still in childbearing years, that's one thing. But I work with many, many people who have had gastric bypass surgery and go through weight loss programs. So I'm quite familiar with the whole I'm going to lose weight and get back into these single digits or whatever, trophy size I call them. Chances are when you reach that weight, you may not want to get back into those clothes. You may want to go buy a new pair of jeans or a new pair of yoga pants or a new swimsuit. So unless it fits, it flatters, it's your lifestyle, the fabric is good, probably just let it go.
All right, and then we're going to move on to our last category, which is the refrigerator.
This is my very favorite thing to organize. Even on the show Hoarders, it was where I really love to begin with all people. And that is because it's something that you go into each and every day. It's a finite amount of space, and there is such a methodical system to organizing your fridge that to me, it seems very easy and less overwhelming. It's kind of like a warm-up exercise, if you will. So I tell people it's just like reading a book. You'll start in the upper left corner and work your way across left to right and weed out anything that's expired or no longer appealing. And then, put your meats and things on the bottom so that if they drip or whatever, you don't have to clean your whole fridge, all 4 shelves again. If you're a parent making sandwiches for your children, you may want to get a little bin in there with all of the sandwich fixins, as we'd say in the South. So maybe the lunch meat, the cheese, the mayo, or whatever you're putting on, pickles, whatever you're putting in the sandwiches, on those sandwiches every day. It would just make it easier to grab it, make your sandwiches, and put it back every day instead of hunting through the fridge for things like that. So categorize, put like with like, think about, using things. So maybe the order of the fridge is going to be the way that you have to use things up.
And check the expiration dates, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Get rid of that jar of mustard that's been sitting in there for 5 years.
Or the jelly that's so hard you have to chisel it with a fork. Yeah.
You just might use that in a recipe, so you're hanging on to it.
Exactly.
Well, Geralin, this has been so much fun and enlightening, and I know some of our viewers will want to inquire about how to become an organizing professional. Where does one get trained to do what you do?
So the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals is an organization that people would join for a fee. There's an annual fee. And then there are many classes available, and they sell the classes in a bundle, and they're available 24/7. They're webinars, so they can download, or they can reach out. They can come to my website. I'd be happy to guide them on what they need to do or how they get started. And I have a blog where I have over 565 posts now, I think, on how to become an organizer, the steps to take, what's needed, what are good qualities or characteristics to look for in a professional organizer, questions to ask. So they're welcome to peruse my blog or my YouTube channel.
That's great information. Well, thank you so much. This has been fun, and your website is on the screen. It's metropolitanorganizing.com, and you're also on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube.
Yes. I'm out there.
Yes, you are. And I'm so grateful that we're friends and that you have shared so much valuable information. And
I am too, Jacqueline.
Well, thank you, Geralin. And thank you for everybody who popped in today to listen to Geralin speak. I think we had a really good turnout today from what I understand. And if anybody has any questions, what is your email address?
My email is gthomas@metropolitanorganizing.com.
Okay.
And they can post their questions on Facebook. I'll come to your page or my own and answer the questions. I'd be happy to.
And I'm also going to post a recording of this interview on YouTube, and you can share it on your YouTube page as well as your Facebook page.
Great. Thank you for having me, Jacqueline. It was lots of fun. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you too. Thanks.